Hello everyone, Straw Hat Puffy here, this time doing the top 21 anime I watched in 2021. Pretty much like 99%. Or it didn't actually release in 21. But I figured I might as well talk about what I watched this year. You noticed I am doing the anime portion after the manga one because I felt more strongly about the anime I watched this year, at least a lot more knowledgeable. Definitely left bit more of an impact on me than the manga I read, which is why I'll be reviewing it. If you notice in this tier, there's a won't talk about tier. Basically, yeah, as you said, I kind of won't talk about it. It's not part of the 21. Nothing against them. They just all have their own reasons, like Rumbling Hearts and Vampire Hunter D, and they're alright. Not enough to like talk about them. Like they're definitely not an F, but I just don't really feel like talking about them. Demon Slayer one, I'll just say it, I didn't really like it and I don't want to like make people mad, nor do I feel like I should talk about it at all. Yeah, and then Dragon Ball, absolutely loved it. It would definitely go in S, but I've read the manga a long time ago and I think it'd be kind of pointless talking about the anime, which kind of more or less did the same thing. It was very enjoyable, and I would definitely recommend it. But yeah, let's get into the real bits and pieces. Oof, going into the F. Yikes, everyone may or may not agree, but I just absolutely hated these anime. Not like all-time least favorites, but god, they were really bad. And yes, F may seem very negative, but I guess it could be D tier as well, but it really doesn't matter. These are arbitrary. These are just my opinion. But F, Elfen Lied, very edgy anime, trying to be edgy, while also having stupid anime tropes. A lot of the characters I think are like really tropey, very dumb. Lots of like unnecessary drama, lots of weird sexualization or like fetishization of very uncomfortable things, lots of infantilization, just very uncomfortable stuff, but not in the way that makes it a good story, just enough to make you not want to watch it anymore, just because it's just really bad. And as I said before, it's really edgy, so lots of unneeded gore just to make things seem evil or strong or something. It really does not tell a good narrative at all. My friends and I joke about it a lot just because it's so bad, and I can't believe I really watched it. It took me a while to stomach the last few episodes or so just because I really didn't want to watch the show, but I said to get it over with. But yeah, just don't watch it. Next, the other F, Teekyu. God, what a meme. It's a real meme. All their episodes are like 2 minutes, so each season's technically like the length of a standard anime episode. And it's quite a trip. I'll say that I only laughed, I think, like 6 times after watching every single episode out there, even the spin-offs, which amounts to I think only like 4 hours or so. That shows how short the series is, despite having so many entries and seasons. And it's kind of weird because it's supposed to be comedy, but really I just couldn't laugh. I think it takes on the form of the Japanese manzai, where it just points out things that someone stupid said, but it does it too much to the point that it's like very obvious that even I could have like said it and it wouldn't have made it any funnier, or I mean I could have pointed out the joke. And of course it has nothing to do with tennis at all, so don't expect it. The anime is also very whack and out there, very random, but not on the level. It kind of like Pop Team Epic, which also was kind of weird, but Pop Team Epic, although it's kind of a bad comedy show, had some of its moments. Teekyu, I guess some of the intros were disgustingly catchy, I will admit. Find myself listening to the full version sometimes, because I guess out of the context of Teekyu, some of the voice actresses are pretty good singers, I will admit. But yeah, I don't know, don't watch Teekyu. If you really need something to like fluff your anime list, or you need something to bring your average score down, I guess watch it. But yeah, it's nothing too great, just a meme. I will say about the art style, it's kind of scuffed in the beginning, but then it changes producers or studios and it becomes has a like it's still kind of scuffed but has like a way better art style, a more consistent look to it. And I don't know if that more or less adds to it. I think the scuffed art style kind of just accentuated that it's scuffed. But yeah, I don't know, just small observation. Now the only entry in C tier, oof, sorry for being negative today, is Cells at Work Code Black. Yes. Not really a fan. The original Cells at Work, you know, very wholesome, very educational, lighthearted. When I heard that there was a Code Black, like a dark version, I was excited at first because I thought there's so many things they could do with the human body. And they most certainly did. They definitely portrayed pretty messed up body, someone who couldn't like stop doing drugs or alcohol or whatever, smoking, you name it, lots of bad things going on. But what was going on inside the body just wasn't my cup of tea. I felt like the characters were also pretty bland. Like, they're supposed to be like, you know, one of hundreds of millions of cells. So, of course, you know, they're technically, I guess, not supposed to have much of personality, but I just really couldn't get into it. Also, I just really hated some of the character designs. White blood, all the white blood cells, you know, being female is one thing, but then when you give them gigantic breasts, which I think it goes against their design of being like killers or like main, I don't know, murderers, not murderers, but being the main force driving back against diseases, but then you give them like big breasts, which definitely doesn't make sense for a fighter. It just really detracts from it. It's just like pointless fan service. And yeah, and even then the ending, I guess, was like kinda, humorously dark, or I found it dark, or I found it funny even though it was dark. I guess it just wasn't something I liked at all. It also, I guess, showed some sperm cells, which are kind of weird. Yeah, I don't know. It's just not great at all. Kind of felt like a mini harem in a way, but yeah, I wouldn't recommend. I don't know if I said there was only one entry in C, but I'm actually going to add another one, Air, one of KyoAni's first works. Sadly, I did not like it. It's an adaptation of a key visual novel as well, but I just couldn't get into it. I think it was kind of boring at times, and the girls this time weren't very interesting. The ending was also very confusing, with the main character kind of reincarnating, I think, or something, and then kind of restarting the thing, and I don't think it really made much sense, and it just kind of made it really boring. Again, couldn't really get into the characters or the story at all, so it's going in C. Now B, honestly this one could have been in C as well, but I know some people like it. Grand Blue, kind of another college show with supposedly a diving club, but usually just a bunch of like frat bros like drinking and stuff. I didn't really like it too much. I didn't think it was too funny. A lot of the jokes were kind of like crude and surprisingly didn't hit as well, I think, as compared to some of the cruder jokes I read in like manga. I think they're kind of tasteless with just like sexual harassment in the form of jokes, even more so than stuff in like Genshiken or whatever. But I just couldn't like it. There's one time where this girl gets mad at a guy because I guess she kind of likes him for some dumb reason, but he's just kind of like a jerk and makes weird comments, and then the one time he like kind of redeems himself, he immediately throws it away by making another dumb comment about her body, and then yeah, just kind of not something I enjoyed too much. I guess it's supposed to be like dumb college guys having fun, but I don't know. I mean, if I don't really like them in real life, I don't see why I would like them in an anime. Yeah, some people enjoy that though. 1BB. Little 1B, Amagi Brilliant Park, another KyoAni work. This one wasn't bad by any means, definitely kind of cute, moe, as usual, but it wasn't like too interesting. Definitely was unfinished because it introduced kind of a character at the end, but since there wasn't a season 2, we'll never see what happens. Basically just trying to revive a park filled with magic, kind of. I guess the most thing going for it was occasionally pretty funny, but nothing too interesting. Kind of one of the forgettable entries in KyoAni's repertoire, but it's KyoAni nonetheless, so I found enjoyment to some degree. Next one, definitely could also be lower. Guess I'm just being a little nice, a little mean today, depending on how I feel. Dragon Ball Super, well, honestly could be B-, but honestly couldn't, or C+. Just couldn't bother making more tiers, but I do not like Dragon Ball Super at all compared to the original Dragon Ball Z by Akira Toriyama. My first question is like, why? Like, why did Super need to be a thing? I think the original Dragon Ball Z kind of completed the story well enough, and then GT continuing that when they're way older. Super is this weird middle ground between the end of the Buu saga and the time skip where Goku trains Oob, and it like makes this weird continuity thing. And I can go on and on about the timeline, but Super itself I think is kind of atrocious in what it introduces. Like, you know, introducing the gods like Beerus, God of Destruction Beerus, and the angels Whis, and then even more like Zeno. Those are pretty interesting, I guess. You know, not necessarily, I guess it's kind of Dragon Ball-esque, but it's get even more crazy with Goku learning, you know, Super Saiyan or God, and then Super Saiyan God's Super Saiyan or Super Saiyan Blue or whatever. It's just really stupid, really dumb. I hate the designs. It's literally Super Saiyan 1 with different hair colors, and Super Saiyan 4 and Dragon Ball GT was a lot better while bringing back old concepts of the Great Ape, and it's a shame that Super couldn't live up to those designs. Again, it even then felt like a little tropey, a little dumb. I did not like the Goku Black arc or slash Zamasu arc. It just felt like a way to bring Future Trunks back, and even then they kind of skipped time way too many times. Yeah, and oh my god, don't even get me started on the Tournament of Power. Like, one absolute waste of a tournament fighting arc. Like, seriously. Like, the concept, you know, of different universes has some, I guess, merit going for it, introducing multiverse stuff, but it just wasn't great, especially with the Saiyans from Universe 6, like Kefla and Kale. Those are really stupid. I can't believe they degraded Super Saiyan to like some tingling feeling in the back. That's so stupid. Like, the original Super Saiyan had weight to it. It was incredible that Goku could unlock the legendary Super Saiyan power and, you know, defeat Frieza. But they channeled it to, basically dumbed it down to like, oh, get angry enough, then you're Super Saiyan. Like, it's different from how Trunks and Goten became Super Saiyan. It was like a gag thing, you know? It was a one-time, you know, well, not necessarily one-time, because they turned Super Saiyan once, but it was a gag thing with how the grandkids, or I guess, well, not grandkids, oops, they're not that old. The kids, you know, are able to do it. But it was just a waste, you know? It's like with Kefla and Kale just being able to do it, it just made no sense. It just made Goku look like an idiot, honestly, for not turning Super Saiyan at all beforehand. I just didn't get it at all. I mean, for one thing, the animation is alright, that's a given. And there was a mini arc, you know, where it kind of explores the lives of everyone, of the Z Fighters or whoever. And that was kind of sweet and enjoyable. I like that, more slice of life with the Dragon Ball characters, something meta that they don't normally do, but really the main meat and bones of Dragon Ball Super was very, I don't want to say offensive, not like I'm offended specifically, but I just really couldn't like it more. Even though I love Dragon Ball as a series as a whole, definitely top 2 in both anime and manga. Can't get enough of it. I mean, I'll still watch Super and support it, but I really can't get myself to like it sometimes. Well, with that rant out of the way, let's go into something a lot better. Kanon. B+. Another one that could arguably be higher, but this one also kind of sweet. It's another key VN. Done a little bit better, I think. Not on the same level as Clannad. A lot of the girls, kind of cute. You could definitely root for most of them. MC, a lot more, I don't know, sarcastic or whatever than the other ones. Not afraid to make some comments. But this time, you know, it's not like too bad. Story itself really has to, for a key VN, they really have to introduce some kind of bad, sad backstory for most of these girls, which ends up leading to a lot of tears coming out. Really, I think it was unnecessary. I'd prefer if this was like some dumb harem show than like some sad cry porn sort of thing. Because I really couldn't bring myself to like how these girls are going through unfortunate things, especially the more magic, unrealistic elements. Didn't make much sense to me. I think it was kind of out of place. They brought it more down to earth. I think I could have liked it more, but I really liked the main characters with their interactions, you know, before the, you know, the bad stuff happens. But still pretty cute. You can try it out if you want. This is the 2006 version, by the way, by KyoAni. I haven't watched the original, so yeah. Just be sure to watch the one that I watched. Next is Free. Free only in B+, I guess, because I'm not in that type of crowd, but it was still a pretty fun, enjoyable watch. Definitely watched. I watched like all of everything that's released except the most recent movie. Hopefully I can soon once the Blu-ray releases and the files you can torrent. But pretty enjoyable seeing these guys grow up from high school to college, learning how to like become a team with swimming. Not necessarily the biggest fan of swimming, but it was still pretty cool. It was also, I guess, like visually it was stunning with the water and all that. But there's really so many ways you can draw them swimming to make it exciting that it's more or less the same thing every time. But don't get me wrong, it's always great when they animate their races, but it just wasn't something that I cared about, I guess. Lots of drama going on in between the characters, lots of showing that, I guess, there's a lot of things that can go on between teammates in sport. A lot of like relationships being broken or formed. Can get sweet sometimes. Definitely really good Fujoshi material. Don't actually see many people talking about it though. Maybe I'm just not in the right circle. Not that I care too much, but reading that stuff, definitely give it a try. Definitely made me laugh sometimes. Kind of like the slice of life stuff outside of swimming. I wish we could see more of that, but yeah. Still pretty good. I didn't really think about talking about this one at first, but I'd rather talk about it than the ones in the bottom, so I figured I will do it. Pokemon Evolutions, the most recent collection of shorts that came out on the Pokemon YouTube channel. Each episode covering a little bit of story from each region, from Gen 8 to Gen 1. I quite liked it, even though I didn't like some of the parts they covered necessarily. Like, they definitely could have covered some of the bigger highlights of each region. And it was a shame that the Gen 3 one focused on the Zinnia episode. Well, actually, no, the Zinnia episode wasn't too bad, or the Delta episode. But regardless, it's always neat to see Pokemon animated because they do a lot more than what we can do in the games with the turn-based combat. Can't wait for Legends Arceus. I don't necessarily have high hopes for that, but it's definitely be an interesting experience. Aside from that, though, or getting back on track, Evolutions, pretty fun. Definitely brings most of the personality of Pokemon rather than the games. Like, honestly, I feel like the games are kind of secondary to the anime. I think the anime is like what brings Pokemon to fame, and then the games are like on the side. Like, of course, the games are really fun, but I think when you think about Pokemon, you start to think more about the anime and what the characters and Pokemon can do and how awesome they are rather than in a game where they're like pixelated or now like really ugly 3D models. But yeah, maybe I can talk about Pokemon later, but tangents aside, Evolution's pretty sweet. If you're a fan of Pokemon, definitely check this out. It's a good nostalgic trip. Going to A, got the classic Sailor Moon, one of the few Mahou Shoujo magical girl shows I've seen. It's pretty cute, lots of like things going on. I watched it in dub, by the way. Kind of episodic, but things get done every now and then. Like main arc stuff. I think it's just enjoyable just because it's part of what defined the genre. It's a classic for a reason, and I still think it's pretty cool. Lots of things kind of catch on, or like catchy, like the music, the tropes, or not the tropes, but the common themes that happen like pretty much almost every episode. The interactions between the girls and everything. I know some people have told me that, oh, Sailor Moon is only for little girls, and that kind of backwards thinking kind of gets you nowhere in life. In my opinion, anyone can enjoy anything, and this is like a mainstay in Japanese pop culture for a reason. There's a reason people liked it, and now I understand why after watching it. I mean, if you don't like it, that's your thing, but I think thinking that people that are male or older can't watch Sailor Moon is kind of a wrong way of thinking. Next is No Game No Life. I realize I go on tangents lots of times, please excuse that, but I think it's just adds on to my process, or my thinking process of what I thought about these shows. But yeah, No Game No Life, pretty funny. One of the few isekai I've watched, but pretty enjoyable as it goes in a different step of what do you call it? Doing games instead of fighting, like games like board or card games, whatever, and like many stuff outside of that. But No Game No Life was enjoyable because I really liked the main characters, Kuhaku, Sora, and Shido. Definitely quite a pair. I really appreciate that they're not too sexual with each other. You definitely can't ship them together. I think they're just brother and sister. Really strong bond, and I'm thankful for that. But definitely is a lot of fan service outside of that you may or may not be into. Some of it's kind of tasteless or unnecessary, but some of it's kind of funny, I guess you could put it. Regardless, it's an interesting take on these really smart people just trying to take over this world they're thrown into that's just perfect for them. Sadly, as the memes say, there may not be a season 2 at all. Very unfortunate, but regardless, I'm thankful that we at least have this, which is pretty decent. It does try to feel smart at times, and what I mean by that is that it tries to bring all these plot twists and what do you call it? Plot twists. Well, not plot twists, but like, oh, these big brain schemes or plans that Kuhaku planned, and just tries to make your mind blown, I think, but I don't know. Regardless, it was still pretty good as an A, and I think I'll go on to the next one, which is Odd Taxi. I'm not really into furries, but aside from that, those character designs, it was still a pretty fun mystery. Lots of different like stories going on, side stories, all these different characters, and then all their plot points kind of convene into one. Trying to find a murderer, and the center of it all is this one taxi driver. Again, I kind of like these older MCs. Kind of brings a more interesting dynamic than what's normally seen in anime and manga. And I will say that the mysteries kind of what do you call it? Kind of predictable. Definitely found myself easily guessing a lot of them. And the intro itself, if you like really pay attention, delve deep, you can kind of spoil yourself. But it's still very fun. Not the best thing out there, but definitely a good watch. Okay, next. AOT. Ooh. Okay, I do have it. Yep. Attack on Titan. Talked about this in my manga one. It's the anime. Won't delve into it too much. Definitely looks gorgeous. Love it when they... I forgot what it's called. Oh my gosh. The zip lines are the 3D maneuver gear or whatever. Zipping around the place. Those always are amazing. Definitely my most favorite shots of the anime. Everything looks great. Except for when they have to do CGI for the horses or some of the Titans. But yeah, I can't really say much more than what I already said with the manga one. Check that video out to hear my general thoughts with the series. Now getting into extra good stuff. Garzey's wing. Another meme, but this one's really good. You have to watch it in dub, otherwise it won't be as funny. It's just, I don't know, it's just really funny how this came to be, and it's just so bad it's good, that sort of thing, that, yeah, I can't not like it. Can't not like it, so I do like it. The first episode is very comedic. Second and third, not, it's not like 3 episodes, but second, third, not necessarily as funny, but still enjoyable regardless. Very silly, like, show with horrible production value, but if you really want a good laugh out of some trash, go ahead and watch this. Next is the Persona 3 movies. I really like Persona 3. The gameplay, although difficult and frustrating at times, is also very... You can be very methodical with it. Definitely takes lots of planning and grinding. Doesn't necessarily make it a good game, but I enjoyed it. With the movies though, it captures the story I think a lot better. It's very slow paced in the games, but the movie kind of cramps it all in. And although it kind of goes maybe a bit too fast, I still prefer it a lot more than how it was in the games. Not to mention the animation is really good. I think brings Persona out the most compared to the 4 or 5 anime. And it's a shame that they also didn't have a 5th movie for The Answer, which is like the epilogue of Persona 3. But it was still really cool. Too bad there wasn't a dub. I really like the dub voice actors, but it wasn't a big loss as Persona 3's story is pretty good. Definitely has a darker, more traditional feel to like Persona 1 and 2 or SMT compared to the lighthearted nature of 4 and 5. But yeah. Yokohama, Kaidansha, Kikou, or Yokohama shopping trip or something like that. Very wholesome. It's like a post-apocalyptic thing, but you honestly couldn't guess from watching it. Very sweet, just following the story of like a robot girl who like runs a cafe in like the suburbs. And even though it's post-apocalyptic, like the world will never be the same. It takes on a lighthearted tone, showing that like everyone's still getting by. Like there's like nothing negative going on in this world, and it's just very enjoyable watch. The sequel isn't as interesting. I think it's kind of boring, but as a whole, the series has a very nice art style. It's kind of like watercolor in a way. Visually, it's appealing, and even in the first part, has a very pleasing story that you can just watch and like it just melts your heart, I think. Very wholesome 100. Next is a Paranoia Agent. I think this was also Satoshi Kon actually. As you can tell, he makes very good mystery stuff, and this one is also very trippy, trying to find this guy named Golden Bat who's been knocking people out when they're in trouble, or knocking people out when they like are going through troubling things in their life. And I quite like it a lot for what it does. It's interesting when Satoshi Kon stuff gets produced into an anime. It takes on an episodic nature sort of deal, but does it in a good way, I feel. trying to chase this mysterious figure named Shonen Bat. The ending though was kind of weird, as in like they explained everything that happened so far, which I guess you can be thankful for, like, oh, they reveal all the answers to the mystery, but I don't really like the answer. I'm gonna be honest. Like, they have two. Yeah, of course, mysteries always got to be like they leave it up to the reader's interpretation, or they just flat out explain it. Not that they directly explain it, but the way they visualize the mysteries just very creepy at times, but the show is very enjoyable. Rip Satoshi Kon. Really wish we could see more of his stuff, but it's a good thing we have it. Finishing off A+ is Lain, Zero Experiments Lain. Another old show, but definitely gets the job done of what you're trying to do. I will say, like, I don't necessarily understand most of it. Would have to rewatch a few times maybe. My mind's kind of blanking on how I can describe it, but aesthetically it's a really good show, just kind of bringing into perspective of how far technology can go, all from a 90s show, like way before computers really became a thing. And I think it's an interesting concept of how, like, humans become disconnected from computers or whatever. But it's still a pretty good show, I think. It's a classic, like a legendary classic for a reason. Finishing or going in the S is Welcome to the NHK, which is like a pretty funny but also dark story of like a hikikomori trying to go into society, and a hikikomori being like someone who like lives in their house all day doing nothing. You definitely could like relate to it a bit with like COVID or whatever, because everyone had to stay in their homes, but it was still a good watch. I really like the characters and seeing them go through all these things. A lot of them have problems in a way, and with otaku culture, or it's like kind of like a good talk on otaku culture. And as you can tell when I talked about Genshiken, I really like that sort of thing. Kind of relatable, or at least I'm knowledgeable enough to talk about it. This thing goes through lots of emotions. It can be very dark at times. It can be very happy. It goes through everything. It can be very sad, I guess. Not that it made me cry. But not that I have to cry for it to be sad, but yeah, definitely would recommend. Like, absolutely. Sorry, I just had to take a bit of a drink of water before I talk about final entry. As you may have noticed, Lupin III. Now, this 50-year-old series is honestly incredible to me. Recommended to me by a friend. I just cannot believe its brilliance. It's cartoony, one of the most cartoony anime out there. Cartoony, I mean, it's in like, it's more akin to like Western cartoons. With its silliness, its episodicness. And the characters themselves are like more or less the same thing every time, so, but they're enjoyable in a way with their interactions. And by Lupin III, I'm talking about part 1, and I haven't watched part 2 or 3 yet, but also part 4 and 5, bit of 6 that has released so far, and then a few movies, the Mine Fujiko spin-off. So I watched most of, I guess, what Lupin has to offer, but really, it's crazy that the series has still been going. It's still going pretty strong. With its latest like finished entry, Part 5, being absolutely incredible, being like the cornerstone of the 50th anniversary, kind of celebrating Lupin as a series with a lot of like meta-defining things, or talking about like what made Lupin great, or like where will Lupin go forward. And it's really crazy seeing that go into a series with a legacy as this. Like, it can only be achieved with like Lupin or similar shows that have been running for literal decades, like half a century like this. and it's just crazy to see. Um, Sadly, part 6 has been kind of boring. It doesn't really bring that same kind of vibe or meta-ness. It tries, I think, to go back to its roots, but even then it does it in a very boring way. I think it's trying to go on a take of like talking, but it's just not enjoyable. I think Lupin, the actions of Lupin speak louder than some of the conversations. Outside of part 5, I mean. But it's, I think, one of my favorite series ever. I only got into it like in November, but then since November I like binge watched like almost everything Lupin has to offer, and it's just fun every time. Like when the gang goes out and do stuff, like the shenanigans never get old. And even Mine Fujiko, Toyu Onna, the spin-off show, has like a darker vibe or darker take on Lupin III, but even then it was still really good, even if they kind of retconned some stuff. I wish they kind of did more with, like, you know, or they had a chance to like really delve into the other characters besides Lupin, but they just kind of like discarded that. Even if it's not canon, you know, they still could have. But it's a really good series that you'll have to watch a lot, I think, to understand. We like definitely watch a lot of it before getting to part 5, just to like know that this is what happened, or this is why Lupin and the gang are doing what they're doing, or why not. You know, it's kind of vague in some of the explanations, but that's what makes it great, because Lupin as a whole isn't tied down by like a simple explanation. It's Lupin is Lupin. I think that's kind of what it sums up to. But yeah, I think that kind of concludes it for my top 21 anime of 2021. I'm watching some good stuff this year, 2022. Definitely will try to make a top 22 list and then stop from there, because 23 is an ugly number. But I think 22 is a good roundup. But yeah, and you know, having to watch 22 anime can be a lot depending on what series I pick. As you can see, some of the ones here were pretty long, some of them are short. But yeah, that's about it. Try giving these a look when you can. Yeah, so it's always fun to discuss things. Yeah, I'll see you guys later. Peace.